Okay, hello everyone. This short episode is about somebody asked about why do we or how do we tell about different leaves that we eat and don't eat, and why are plants built certain ways, around being eaten or not eaten, I guess you could say. And then also there was a question about how large leaves can get. So here's my spinach bed. I'm really pleased with this spinach bed, but there's a spinach leaf. Like, that's a pretty big spinach leaf. Put it close to my face so you can see exactly how big it is, or in the palm of my hand maybe, so it covers the palm of my hand more or less. So it's a big leaf, right? So it depends on how long the plant grows that it will produce leaves. So the spinach is really happy. It's getting lots of water, even though it's been extremely hot. It's because I've been watering it properly. It's not suffering or getting stressed. It's just growing really well. And how do we know which leaves to eat? Well, bottom line for you, if you're watching this video, is, and if you're a child, ask your parents. They'll tell you which ones to eat and which ones not to eat. But as you're learning, if you plant seeds, you kind of know what you're allowed to eat, because I got some lettuce, I'm planting lettuce, I know I can eat it. But plants, so people have noted things about the leaves where they're fuzzy, and I did mention about not eating tomato plant leaves because they're not good for you. Okay, so spinach leaves, they're nice and smooth, they're dark green vegetables, so they got lots of vitamins and minerals inside of them. So all the minerals from the soil are stored inside the leaf, along with things like sugar and not sugar like candy sugar, but all plants are made of something called a carbohydrate, which is a type of a sugar. Okay, so it stores that, and then we can eat it. I'm not going to eat this one just because I don't feel like it right now, so I'll put it on the soil and something else will eat it. Leaves, so let's look at the kale seeds again. So these are kale plants, but they've gone to seed, so they've been growing all winter. Well, not growing all winter, but they've been just resting all winter, and then they came up in the spring and they produce seeds in the second year. So they still have a few leaves, right? But if you look now, the kale is mostly producing stems and flowers. So it stops putting a lot of energy and nutrients into the leaves and just kind of leaves what's there. It leaves the leaves on the plant, and it just uses those to continue, getting the energy it needs. But a lot of the energy is going into producing flowers and seeds. So when a plant starts to produce flowers and seeds, usually you're not eating the leaf, okay? Not at that point, okay? You're eating it before it starts to even look like it's going to produce flowers or seeds. And I'll go this way. So I'm going to come to the radish patch again. I think I showed some, oh wow, they look really awesome. Somebody said something about, do all leaves change color like in the fall? Okay, not necessarily. All leaves they can change color. They don't necessarily look like maple leaves, like where they get bright red and orange. But, so here's a radish leaf, and the radishes are soon to be harvested. So it means they've come kind of like to the end of their life cycle. Or no, not the end of their life cycle. Well, it's going to be the end of their life cycle because I'm going to make it the end of their life cycle. But there's a radish, okay? Nice, big, watery, really yummy. So this is going to be wonderful at the market. People will be very pleased to see this kind of thing because they look really healthy. But they still have their leaves, right? No stem yet, although you can almost see in the middle. It's almost like starting to grow a stem. And you can always think on all plants, really, there is the root collar, bug on my face. That's kind of like the early parts of the stem. But these radishes, you can see, as they mature and they start, especially if the weather gets hot and a little bit dry, you can see how they turn color at the edge of the leaves. So that's a sign to me. So somebody said, do they change color and why? I don't know why they do it. They do it because they do. Maybe somebody's come up with a reason for it, but for me, the reason it's helpful, like that I'm glad they change colors, because it tells me things about them. Same as, okay, at the bottom. So here's a radish that is starting to go to seed. So it's starting to change its life cycle, because you can see clearly now it has a stem. Okay, it's got the root ball, it's got its tap root, and then the lateral roots with the root hairs. That's where it does its feeding, right? But now it's starting to put energy into a stem and eventually a flower. So that means the root part here will start to get woody and not so great to eat at the market. Okay, whereas this one, when it has no stem, yummy, yummy, yummy. All right. Back to the change in leaf color. So you can see at the bottom of some of these radish plants, what color are the leaves? They're yellow. Okay, now they turn yellow because now we mentioned early on in leaves about chlorophyll. So there's a little chemical factory inside a leaf called a chloroplast, and it has chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is the one thing that makes plants plants. It's the thing that allows them to collect energy from the sun, take nutrients, water, and air, and turn it into food. It's just such an amazing thing, an amazing gift. So as it's growing and it no longer needs leaves, so because the top leaves have gotten so big and they're blocking out all the sun, they're still getting the energy for the plant. So the plant just goes, okay, well, you're not doing anything anymore. You don't need to be here. So it stops feeding it what it needs for chlorophyll, and slowly that leaf would just die, and it would go into the soil, and it would decompose in the soil. That means break down into little tiny particles that then other plants can eat. Okay, so it's a life cycle, but they turn, I guess you could say they turn color, or they stop, or they start changing because maybe the plants don't need them anymore. Okay, and that happens with a lot of plants, you know, like on the trees behind me, we know those fall off in the fall, and it's because the tree is going to stop growing in the winter, and it doesn't want to lose its water through the leaves, so it drops all the leaves so it doesn't dry out. That's the main reason why trees leave their leaves. They don't want to dry out, okay? Because the water's coming out of the leaves as well. We didn't talk about that, but that happens. Okay, so I'll stop there. Just a little bit about leaf change, color, and a little bit about why we eat them. Actually, I'll add one more thing, because the radish leaves are here just in front of me still. So radish leaves, if you can see that, I don't know if the camera's the right angle, but there are little tiny spikes. Maybe this side. When the light's shining through, I just noticed it was easy to see, but I can't tell. It's hard for me to see into the camera. So there's little tiny spikes on this leaf. And again, these are getting mature. That means they're getting big, almost ready to produce seed and flower. So the plant is making them spiky because it's saying, I need protection right now. I do not want anything to eat me. Otherwise, I won't have the energy to grow my flowers. So it can grow spikes. Early on, when radishes are first growing, you can eat the whole plant. You pull it out of the ground, you eat the greens, you eat the root, everything. And it's all healthy and tasty. But now it's going to start getting a little bit bitter, and it's not pleasant to eat something with spikes on it, right? So that's what plants do. So some of them are fuzzy or spiky because they're trying to protect themselves, just like you. You know, if something, you know, if you feel like somebody's pushing you around, sometimes you go like this, you put your hands up and say, stop, stop. And it's just like a plant. Instead of, they don't have hands to go like this and say stop, they have little prickly things or bad tastes also. Plants will make themselves taste bad. Certain animals do this too, but they'll make themselves taste bad so that they don't get eaten. I'm going to turn the sprinklers off so I don't get sprayed. This bed is something I mowed down, so it used to be lettuce, and now the lettuce is going to go back to the soil, the stuff that I didn't harvest. So I'll just stop here because we're getting down to 10 minutes here. So there's a lettuce leaf, but same thing. Look, this lettuce is starting to go to seed, right? So it has a big, tall, tough stem, and then it's still got leaves, but they look a little different. So they're a little bit whiter than they were. And I'm going to show you. If you break this, you can see the plant is alive. It's doing stuff. Look, there's it's not blood, but it's like the same thing as a plant's blood. So It's transporting in that liquid. Oh, I'm getting a little sprinkle on the back every once in a while. It's transporting through that liquid all the nutrients and water from the soil to the leaves and back to the soil. So when it gets so milky like that, you can see even at the ends of the leaves, this one's not getting too milky, but when it's milky in the leaves, very bitter, okay? Not poisonous, just really hard to, most people don't like the flavor. A little bit is good. And in some cases, it can be good for your digestive system, but it's hard to eat a lot of bitter leaves. So yeah, plants, spikes, thorns, make themselves taste bad, okay? That's kind of what happens to leaves, and a little bit about when we know to eat them.